Hey guys, so I'm Tyler,
I'm Torrie.
and today we're gonna talk about what they don't discuss about the VA home loan when it comes to getting out and trying to do paperwork to apply for a house and all that other stuff. Everyone always says that veterans have all these benefits and all this other stuff, and it's funny seeing all the benefits on Facebook and but I feel like most of them aren't really benefits that are really in our best interest, like the veterans, like when it really comes down to it, like they really aren't truly there for the veteran. And that's what we ended up finding out in our situation. Of course, we were in self-taps, and because we're both transitioning out of the military, I've done 6.5 years. My wife, I think 3.5.
Yeah, I've done 3 years so far.
So we're both on our way outside of the military, thank fucking God. But so we were in the process of buying a house, and what happened is we went into Navy Federal, and we were doing the paperwork. We got told that they had to run our credit, and then on top of that, we had to pay, I think it was like $38.
Yeah, I think it was $37. And in the beginning, the guy that we spoke to, like, he sounded knowledgeable at the time. And then as soon as we started like our paperwork and getting like our pre-qualifications, he kind of just like switched on us, and it was almost like he had no idea like what we should do, as opposed to like the VA loans. Like, we would ask him questions and he pretty much was like, oh, well, I don't know, like, I'm gonna have to call the VA just to figure it out. And for me, like, that means that we're dealing with someone that doesn't really know what they're doing, and this is like a very, very important step in our life. So I feel like when you go to buy a house, no matter how old you are, like if it's your first time, you really need to work with someone that has your best interest in mind and that knows like exactly what they're doing, because let's just face it, like, buying a house is a lot of freaking money, okay?
So pretty much after figuring out that dude had no fucking idea what he was doing, what he was talking about, he was like, well, we're gonna run your credit, we're gonna push up your paperwork, all that other stuff. I had to submit in the document to the VA, one of the VA centers, because I'm getting medically retired, so I'll be receiving 80% once I final out of the military. But I had to submit in that paperwork so that because there's something as like a founder's fee or funder's fee, you have to pay that in order to actually use the VA home loan, which they don't discuss that, but that's besides the point. They don't talk about that before you decide you want to use the VA home loan. But yeah, so I had to submit in that paperwork, and once again, the dude at the bank had no idea what I was talking about. He was like, well, you guys submitting paperwork. I thought you just had to end up paying the $5,000, because it was around about $5,000 for the funder's fee. And so we did all that, and pretty much me and my wife thought that we were good to go. We were on our way to purchasing a house. But the next thing we realized that wasn't the case for us. We got a call. I think it was like from the loan officer, or
Yeah,
maybe
I think
it was
that
like
or like a rep.
yeah, it was a loan something. But we started talking, and pretty much they told us that they don't count our last paychecks, if that makes any sense, because we're see, I final out on August the 1st, so I'll be on leave for, I think it's like 60 days. I'll be on leave, so I'll still be collecting a paycheck from the military.
Yeah.
My wife's the same way. She finals out on September 11th.
But my contract doesn't end until November 22nd. So even though we're not like working, we're still getting paid like by the military. And for some reason, like they were telling us that doesn't count, which to me, like that doesn't really make any sense, because like before the military I've rented like 2-3 times, and they normally go off of current income. They don't go off of future income. They don't go off of like what if this and that. But for what this guy was telling us, was he was saying that pretty much they're gonna go off of future income. But yet when I told him that I was gonna use my GI Bill to go to school in October, which I'd still be getting paid by the military until November, he said, well, I can't count that as your income because it's untaxable income. Which, like, to me, even if it's untaxable, that doesn't really make sense, because money's money, like, in my eyes. So if you're getting money, in my opinion, that's income. And the way he was explaining it was that my only option was to re-enlist for like a year to be able to have like 12 months of income. Or his other suggestion to me was for us to both get out and become civilians, and we wouldn't be able to use our VA home loan for 2 full years.
2 years.
And that would like suffice as job income. So to me, like, if this is true, which I'm finding out that it's not, that's just insane. Like, that's super insane, because why would you have a benefit that you wouldn't be able to use right away? Like, you know, so if we get out and they don't let us use this like benefit, what is the point of us getting the benefit anyways? Because yeah, we can rent, but like my husband and I both have like really, really good credit scores. We don't have any debt. Like, we don't have any car loans or anything like that. This bug is like annoying me. We just have like really good, just everything. No debt, everything's paid, all that good jazz. And we have like a tons of money in the bank, and yet this guy is over here telling us that pretty much we can't buy a home, which it's crazy, because you work so hard at like having good credit and, you know, not having any debt and all that stuff, and yet they're still like, well, you know, sorry about your luck, kid, you're not gonna be able to get a house. So that's like what we were having like the hardest time with. But now we're like, we talked to another like lender, and he had explained to us that 2-year thing that the other guy had said, that is like null and void. Like, that doesn't make any sense. He also said that we don't have to have 12 months left in the military, like on the contract, to be able to use it. So I'm like, all right, good, that's like a step up. But at the same time, like, what we don't understand was the fact that he was telling us that Tyler has to go to Texas and get a job, and he has to have a job before we sign the paperwork on the house, which to me that doesn't make any sense, because like I said, we're still employed with the Army. So, like, we still have a job. So
pretty much like because like I said, I final out on August the 1st, and when we were still doing, well, we still are trying to, but the first initial time that we did the paperwork, we were like, well, what's gonna happen is, as soon as August 1st hits, I'm gonna drive to Texas, do paperwork on the house. If they need to, I'm gonna have them fax you over the paperwork, because she's still in the military and she still works. So it's not like we both can just take a day trip or a week or 2 weeks to Texas together. That wasn't feasible for us. So I was going to go down there, set up everything so that and then after I set it up everything, I was gonna come back, because I still needed to help my wife clean our house, because we live on base. And then I wanted to actually be there to move like my wife and our 2 dogs to Texas. just to make the whole process a lot easier, because it's like 11-hour drive. It's something crazy. So we were gonna end up doing that, but then everything just started crumbling. So we were like, oh my goodness. But it's crazy though, because like at first we were gonna wait until July 27th, because we were trying to give us the most amount of time. And you know, once you run your credit, it's only good for 60 days. So we were trying to give us the most amount of time as possible. But then I thought about it. I was like, well, maybe we should do this a little bit more ahead, just in case anything happens. And thank goodness we decided to do this. Or as my wife would say, we'd be homeless. Crazy. But yeah, so we found all this stuff out. But there's just a lot of stuff that the VA doesn't tell you, and self-taps doesn't tell you. It's like, for people that aren't in the military, it's like this week-long, maybe 2-week-long course that you have to go through, and there's like tons of classes that you have to take. It's like mandatory for everyone to get out of the military. But it's like they really don't touch on the VA home loan aspect of it. Like, they don't tell you about the funder's fee. They don't tell you about the credit score, whatever, the minimum credit score. I think it's like a 640. But that doesn't, at the end of the day, that doesn't affect your interest, which is, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because someone that has a 640 credit score gets the same interest as what we do. We're close to
have like
800.
750s, over like 750 to 800 credit scores, and they were telling us that doesn't have any like position whether who gets it. Like, they just have a set score of the score that makes you eligible is like a set score, and then it doesn't matter. Like, someone could have like a 640, and then like somebody could have an 800, and no matter what, you're still gonna get that same rate. Like, I think he told us that ours was going to be like a 4 something, and I was like, whoa, hold up, like, we've worked hard for our credit and you're telling us like that's the rate? Like, it should be like 1 to 2s because of our credit score. And then that's when he informed us that like it's a fixed rate no matter what. So to me, that's just super crazy, because like when you're civilian, credit like really matters, you know. And someone that has like a high credit score, they're gonna be able to get a car loan for like super cheap. They're gonna be able to get like accepted for like a super high mortgage and all that stuff. And with this, like he said, no one really explains anything to you, and like, how are you gonna know what to ask if you have no idea, you know? Like, if that makes sense.
And then on top of that, like, this blows my mind, because anyone that's been in the military, they know that like once you go against someone's word, the person above you is like, well, in this regulation, da 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 da, or you might want to go read that regulation or something crazy like that. Well, when we tried to call the VA department, I forget where it was that we ended up calling, but we tried to call somebody, and dude answered. At first he was answering our questions and stuff like that, and then as soon as he didn't know the answer, he was like, well, the regulation, well, and that's all he kept saying over and over. It was like a tape recorder. I was like, yeah, playing it over and over and over again. Well, the regulation. But it's then, like no one truly knows. It's like,
yeah, no one knows.
It's crazy how much like they don't tell you. People don't know about the VA home loan. I mean, shoot, when it comes to GI Bill, it was crazy, because even the people that work at our education center, the people that should know, they're like, oh, well,
yeah, they had no freaking clue.
No, and most of the time they had to call the VA, which in this case, if it's anything like the person that we talked to the other day, like, they probably don't even know either.
Yeah.
Probably like, oh, shit.
What I thought was crazy was he kept telling me, like, yeah, the regulation says this and that, And this was before I actually went on their website and looked under like eligibility. Well, after a call, I looked at the website under eligibility, and the only regulation or like requirement that was on there was to be eligible to use your VA home loan, you have to have completed 90 days like honorable, like 90 days like in the military, and then you have to either like get out honorably, which for us, like, yeah, we're not out yet, so we would still be eligible by the statement that says 90 days on active duty, because like we've been in for years. So he didn't even mention that. And then on top of that, the website doesn't mention anything about like having to have 12 months left on your contract to apply, or having a civilian job when you get out for 2 years. So I was just like blown away, because no one knew like exactly how the heck the VA loan even works. So we're just like, oh my god.
Yeah, and it's crazy, guys, because like so we took this to Facebook, we took this to Instagram,
Change.org.
and yes, we also took it to change.org. But the amount of replies that we got to it, and it was just funny because it was like mostly from the people that we know.
I'm super glad you freaking bringing this up.
And it was well, contact me as soon as possible, and because we were in the gym, we're big on the going in the gym, you know, physically fit.
We're not like talking shit about anybody, we're just like pointing these like points out, so don't get it twisted.
Yeah, don't get butthurt. But so people are like, a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend used a VA home loan, and this is what happened. I'm like, okay, like it's crazy though, because like I was working out, my wife came up to me and she was like, yeah, so and so said that's not true, and then I was like, all right, well we'll talk to her after we get done working out. So we get in the car, and my wife's like, yeah, all she did was give us this website. And it's like, well, I could have did that. But it's like at the same time, a lot of people that don't know are like, yeah, well, it's been like that, but it's like no one really has gone through it that we know of. So I guess what we're trying to get after is if you've been through the process and like kind of deal with something like we're going through right now, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, and like we're not knocking anybody's like anybody's comments to us. Like we really accept like all the helping comments, but it's just hard because a lot of people are giving us comments on what to do when they've never used their VA home loan at all. So it's like maybe like everyone seems to know like a little bit about something, but then we had a lot of people commenting on like the situation that like isn't in the military, like never used a VA home loan, and they were just like, well, can't you do this and can't you do that, and like, oh well, this is how it is. Like he said, like people are commenting like, well, that's how it's always been. Like, okay, maybe that's how it's always been, but if nobody knows that's how it's always been, then how the do we know? You know what I'm saying? Like if it's not in the freaking on the website, it's not like by phone, it's not by lenders, no one's telling you this in the military or TAPS, like none of that, then how is someone supposed to know? And that's why we really wanted to make this video, to let other people know, like, yeah, like we had a plan and everything, and we still do have a plan, but you need to have like a plan A through X, because sometimes like things just don't go down the right way. And like what I really want to stress to you guys is don't get like super upset or like feeling down and low, because that's how we got in the first place. Like I even was like crying. I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna be freaking homeless. Like, oh, I don't like, yeah, we can rent, but I was like,
I don't know how many times she threw out that homeless part. It was funny. I mean, not really funny if you're homeless, but for us it was kind of like, I kept looking at her every time she said that, like, babe, we have like pretty much close to 30,000 saved up, and I'm like, not gonna be homeless. And then even it's crazy. It blows my mind. Like I wasn't even talking to the VA guy. It was my wife. But when she mentioned that to the VA guy, he was like, "Well, ma'am, like you stated, you would be receiving BAH for going to school, but yet the VA doesn't count that
because it's untaxable."
But then on the flip side of that, like dads like me, because I pay child support for my son. He's 5. But the state of Maryland counts that as income. So it's like the government needs to pick and choose. Like, man, us dads are out there struggling when it comes to the BAH and being in the military, because the state they tax that. They're like, well, that's a source of income, and it doesn't matter if you live on base or not. Like, because it hits for people that aren't in the military. It hits my pay stub. It shows that I'm getting that pay for BAH, but I never see it, like, physically. It never hits my bank account. The housing on base, they take it, so it just shows up a number on my pay stub. But the state, they're all over it. They're like, oh, well, you got a number on there, we gonna take that. But it's just crazy, because when we got that call, it was kind of like the only source of income that they were willing to go off of was my disability, which was it's $1,816, something like that.
Yeah, so even though, like, we will be going to school and we're still in the military right now, like, even though we would technically have like probably like 6,000 a month, like 5,000 to 6,000 a month, they can't count any of that. So it's just like, it's really confusing, and it's like really frustrating, because why would the government give you BAH, which is basic allowancing for housing? Like, why would they give you money for rent, but you can't technically, like, it can't technically be counted as rent through the VA, but it's specifically for rent. Like, so he was like, well, you can get a job, this and that. Okay, well, a job is not guaranteed either, not even in the military, because you can get kicked the fuck out. So, like, you can get a job and get fired. You can get a job and get fired the next day, but you can be going to school and you can fail out of a class and then, like, get your money, like, your money could be stopped. So either way, it's like the same exact principle, which is why it was really confusing that he was trying to say, like, only certain things, like, count towards that, and that they didn't want to count your current income. So yeah, it was just, like, really confusing, but we just want you guys to know, like, don't get discouraged and frustrated because you're, like, you and, like, the person that you're with, or maybe you're just alone, like, you have to be there to pick up other people and, like, bring yourself from, like, a lower level to a higher level. Like, don't just give up because one person says no. Like, just keep fighting and, like, go to other people, like, explore other avenues of, like, traffic and stuff in order to see, like, who's gonna be, like, your yes man, you know what I mean? Like, that makes sense.
And then on top of that, like I said earlier, we would like to hear your stories, if it's like ours, or even if it's like a first time go. Like, we would just love to hear your experience. And like I said, if it's your friend of a friend of a friend, tell that person to comment or like, or even share it to that person, or share it to others that are thinking about buying a house through the VA loan, because they probably don't know, and like I said, they're probably not being told in self-tabs or through the VA or whoever. And like we said, like, we can't, this isn't something that you find online. Like, you can do reviews on the VA home loan and stuff like that, and people will tell you, like, the minimum requirements, like 640 credit score, or the debt to ratio income, but there's nothing, or the service requirement, but there's nothing else really on it. So tell us what you think, tell us your experience, and definitely like and comment and share.
Yeah, and if you guys need to, we're gonna leave our Facebook links like down in the description box. So if you guys want to direct message us or anything like that, you can do so on there, or drop us a comment in the box below. We'd love to hear your stories. Anything would help. So yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thanks guys. We'll catch you later.